This is 91.3 FM, WCW in Worcester, the Dr. Chris Radio of Horror show, as well as Radio of Horror on YouTube and Radio of Horror on VidMe. If you happen to be catching this interview when it is not, when you happen to be catching this interview after it airs live. And tonight on the show with us, I will be flying solo during this interview, as Jess has the night off for multiple gigs throughout New York City for singing, performing, and battling the forces of evil. We have J.R. Pepper on the show with us of J.R. Pepper's Photography. Some rather creepy and unsettling photos from the land of picture taking. Thank you for joining us, J.R. Pepper.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me.
What is this picture of the naked, armless, winged goat head? And I say naked, I am talking about the naked female body variety.
Well, two things. One, it's not an actual person. I went through a series in my portfolio where I did a lot of work with mannequins. Clearly, I was playing Silent Hill for way too long and way too late.
I definitely got it was a mannequin, but I had to do a closer inspection of the picture because in the back of the picture where the mold is of the statue, it looks like it has tailbone.
Now, you know what that is? If you've ever gone into any kind of clothing store and they have those half mannequins, like the split ones for the bikinis and the bathing suits, that's exactly what that is. And it just was one of those things that wound up living in my home. My house kind of functions as a curio cabinet. And I wound up taking it home and doing a series of kind of Brothers Quay, Silent Hill inspired mannequins. So that one in particular does not have a tailbone, but I can't verify that they all don't.
I see. I was like, it was just rather unusual, and that just drew my attention for some reason.
No problem. Well, that's the idea, really, right? So that's from quite a while ago. That's from about five or 6 years ago. My current portfolio of imagery relates around spiritualism and spirit photography from about 1870s to about 1920. I've done a couple of series related to that. My most recent one was dealing with ectoplasm, which a lot of seance practitioners and psychics back in 1890s, 1880s would claim that they could spout ectoplasm from their mouth, their eyes, their nose, and most of them were female, and you can imagine where else. So,
oh my! Well, I'm sure that would have made for a rather kinky night out in the town with the right type of bedfellow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm sure.
Look at all the extra lubricant we have now. Oh,
it's funny because I do a series of lectures related to spirit photography, the Fox sisters, and Japanese animation. And whenever I do the lectures on spirit photography and describe the ectoplasm and how it was used, and of course there are documented cases where they couldn't identify what the substance was. Oftentimes it was cheesecloth or just wet fabric that was meant to look very gross. And there's one reported case of a woman who essentially tried to hide it as best she could in a way that she thought the men wouldn't examine. And in the way of doing that, apparently she very much hurt herself trying to exude it. And this is me using as many non-graphic and Brooklynite terms as possible.
I'm going to let you know right now, I don't care. Use whatever language you want. Be adult as you want. I don't fucking care. So don't sugarcoat it for the kiddies.
No problem. Well, I mean, essentially she wound up either popping a cyst or something like that. And it was so funny. The first time I gave this lecture and started to describe this, I saw every man in the room just cringe in a way that I haven't seen since I saw Gozu in theaters.
Wait, do you mean like a cyst down there?
Mm-hmm.
Ew! I'm not into that.
Not many people are, but I'm sure there's, as they say, there's a website for everything.
Oh, gross.
That's what I get paid to do. So
anyway.
But in any case, that's a part of my photography series. I'm still working on it. With a new year brings new ghosts, no pun intended, and looking forward to some new shoots. Been getting some decent, there's been a lot of resurgence of interest in this kind of thing, in this kind of subject matter. especially with places like the Morbid Anatomy Museum, which unfortunately just closed, and places like the Mutter Museum really bringing that interest into the macabre and the creepy back into the mainstream, and welcoming people into that kind of creepy group and a safe haven kind of thing. So I've been lucky to be a part of it, thankfully. I really am grateful.
Now, this is going to sound kind of funny considering the other podcasts that I do, Supernatural Creatures and Lore, where we talk about the monsters, creatures, and other things that go bump in the night related to the television series Supernatural. Episode by episode, we take. We don't talk about our love of Sam and Dean. We don't do an episode analysis or review. We talk about the monster of the week that happens to appear in the episode that Sam and Dean fight. And I had yet to reveal this to my co-host, who is a bit more religious than I am, but I do not believe in ghosts.
I mean, again, it's everybody. The way I describe it is everybody does what they need to get through the day. And considering I've been doing this kind of photography for a while now, both in film and digital, you'd be surprised the emails, or maybe you wouldn't really, that I get from people as a result of the photography. I get at least one person a year asking me if I believe in Jesus and telling me that I'm going to hell. I get the occasional person who takes a photo of like their camera strap in front of the camera lens and tells me they found a ghost in their backyard. I get a variety of odd emails multiple times a year, but the one in particular that stands out to me was there was this couple, and I can't recall where they were from, but they had taken a picture of what looked like a series of light over a lake to resemble an angel or some kind of demonic angel type creature. And normally I can look at these things and kind of pinpoint how they were constructed or how they were made, especially with film. You know, you can tell that there's an orb, as they claim, and then it's really just dust or something in the air, that kind of thing. But for this particular one, I gave them a list of possibilities, and they said, you know, do you really think it's real? It's like, I really don't, you know, frankly, I don't believe that they would be. And I couldn't really give them a straight answer, at least not one that they enjoyed. So they wound up apparently passing it on to several individuals, and it wound up being published in a Ghosts on Film book, which I just found about 3 weeks ago in the Strand here in New York. And I was like, son of a bitch. Well, there you go.
There's a bookstore called The Strand?
Yeah, the Strand bookstore. It's a massive bookstore in Manhattan.
There's a movie theater in Clinton, Massachusetts called The Strand.
Oh, really? Had no idea.
Besides spiritual photography and other unusual type of things you take pictures of, you either have a affinity for one of three things: H.P. Lovecraft, seafood, or hentai. Based on this picture I'm watching of the woman's mannequin hand with the squids on it.
Okay. That was another project that I did. I was taking a course at SVA, which was amazing, called Desire and Disgust in Photography, which dove headfirst into various photographers who focus on the bizarre, the extreme, and the macabre. Normally, you think of the association and it's DNR-bis, and it goes a lot further down the rabbit hole than that. But yeah, that is definitely influenced from Lovecraft in particular. And like I said, I do a lot of freelance stuff related to Japanese media, and it just kind of all came together, and it was a really interesting experience to kind of go into the local fish market here and just ask him for what's the strangest thing that you sell, and the guy looking at me very peculiar and eventually selling me those. But yeah, that's another part. I like to, in my work with either the supernatural aspect or the thing that I always say is those left behind. And again, that theme of desire and disgust between the two, and what can be simultaneously sensual and grotesque.
There's an article written in your press section, Japanese gore erotica is slowly catching on in the West. Not safe for work.
Yeah, not safe for work at all. What happened was last year, as part of my lecture series on Japanese animation, I had been invited to give a talk twice over at the Morbid Anatomy Library, and it became a little overwhelming, the amount of people that had checked into this lecture on Facebook, because they were a very small lecture space, and like 1,000 people checked into this. which was insane. And then I started getting emails from people asking questions about their thesis papers and can we do an article about it, and one of which was for that one. And admittedly, it's not my strong point, but yeah, that is a thing, and it's been picking up very much so in the last few years. There's a number of both Japanese and American artists that deal in this kind of erotic, grotesque artwork, namely very graphic, very comic book, very manga influenced style. And they they interviewed me for that, and it was one of those things like, huh, well, there's another strange thing from my resume. Needless to say, I didn't exactly tell my parents about that article, but got some good press. Can't complain about that.
What? You don't want to share that with Dad? I mean, come on.
Probably not. He's getting used to the eclectic nature of both of his children, but I think that might be a little bit above the line.
Nah.
Yeah, that's not exactly a safe for work article, but
I can imagine.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Yeah, I don't recommend you Google it on the train unless you really want to get a bus or something like that and sit in the corner by yourself. But yeah, that was interesting, and hopefully I can kind of move further with that, because this particular lecture on Japanese animation and body horror, I'd like to develop into something larger. And I'm noticing that as I'm working on it, there's a lot of different trends going on that I can add to my pre-existing work, which is exciting and frankly terrifying for my Google search history.
Are you setting up at any conventions or art shows anytime soon? I think this year, because they do it every other year, is the next time they're going to be doing Necronomicon in Providence, Rhode Island, which is close to New York. And then at the end of February is TerraCon, which is a sister horror convention of the Rhode Island Comic Con.
Yeah, I've been looking at that, actually. The Necronomicon one is one that I've been wanting to do. So far for this year, I don't really have anything yet. I'm working on, as you mentioned, fighting the forces of evil. I'm throwing a Planned Parenthood fundraiser the night of the inauguration, so all my energy is kind of going into that. But soon I will be starting to schedule different lectures and workshops and things like that. My first one, though, is the second week of February at the Lovecraft Bar here in New York. I'll be selling some artwork, which should be cool and a groovy night.
There's a Lovecraft Bar in New York?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's more steampunk themed than anything else, but it's a cool space that has a lot of cosplay events and horror-related reading workshops and that kind of thing. But
how am I missing this? This sounds so awesome.
It's a really cool space. It really is. And like they, as they say, they spared no expense. It's quite cool looking. It's Lower East Side Manhattan.
It sounds really amazing.
Yeah, you got to come down and check it out. We've got a couple of cool little creepy atmospheres that are still hanging around, even though New York is mostly condos these days.
I will. I made a point that I'm going to go to New York to see something that my co-host is doing, and she performs in New York. Jess O'Lantern, her singer-songwriter name, and so I will have to. I will have to hit the town with you to this H.P. Lovecraft bar sometime and try and plan it out.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. There's another one that we have. There is a Beetlejuice bar as well.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Yeah, there's a Tim Burton theme bar. It's super tiny though, and it's like you really can't get in there. It's not a fun place to just chill, unfortunately. But there's also, they just opened up House of Wax bar, which is pretty badass, actually.
Are these all in New York City?
Yeah, New York and Brooklyn, yeah.
Okay, so we'll have to, go bar hopping to these places.
Dude, I am totally down for that.
We'll have to do, live radio horror in New York City! All right, here we are. We're at the Tim Burton bar. All right, now we got to leave because it's so small. Okay, now we're at the House of Wax. Okay, now we're going to be drinking over at the H.P. Lovecraft bar. We're going to be sampling, look at, what's this? The new H.P. Lovecraft beer that's out, the Poe beer, which I think is coming out very soon, actually.
Yeah, that's coming out soon. Yeah, I saw the press release for that not too long ago.
Definitely. But I think, again, this year is the next year they're doing the Necronomicon, so you'll have to come down here. But there are always, day trips to New York through the bus which I'd always wanted to do. I'll have to plan one out coming up. Maybe plan it for like a March, maybe for the walking around weather to be a little warmer.
Yeah, yeah. I don't need to tell you this, but we get wicked winters over here. And
Okay.
And the snow, we don't have pretty snow here. It's pretty for like an hour, and then it's disgusting. So March is probably a better day.
And you can. Oh, sorry. You can take the pictures as well as us touring the Beers of Horror of New York.
Totally.
Yeah,
I'm totally down for that.
Oh, and we got to because I always wanted to do it. We got to stop by the Ghostbusters Firehouse.
Oh yeah, totally. That's on the way.
All right, I will pick a date in March, and I will send you a message and be like, all right, this day I'm going to top that bus to New York, and you become my tour guide.
Oh, I am exceptionally good at creepy tours here in New York. I have to say that.
Fan-flippantastic. So that way when you come up here to Providence for Necronomicon in August, I will be your tour guide of whatever Lovecraft theme things that they do. A couple of years ago, in 2013, the first one they had like this amazing water fire thing happening with like bonfires on the river of Providence. There was all this chanting, and it was like these bands. And they didn't do it in 2015, the last time they had Necronomicon. They just didn't time it right. It was a lot of people were disappointed because they had to say like the first one was the better of the two.
Yeah, yeah. I just it's funny because I had been up there in 2014 for a workshop. With School of Design.
Uh-huh.
And I remember asking, is there anything cool to do around here? And like, well, last year we set the river on fire. It's like, no, why is that not happening now?
They do that every year from like May till October.
That's so cool.
Yeah, definitely. It's
so cool.
Freaking awesome to see. Well, Pepper, we appreciate you taking the time to come on the show with us to talk a little bit about your art and photography, and we look forward to hopefully taking a trip out to New York to take some excellent pictures with you of the Beers of Horror, as I'm going to call it.
Absolutely. I am totally down for that. And again, I should have some new schedules up after the inauguration of Darkness this weekend, and then I will give you guys a new schedule, keep you up to date.
Oh, yeah, the inauguration of Darkness has nothing to do with anybody becoming president, right?
No, of course not.
All right, thank you so much.
No problem, thank you.
All right, hold up one quick second.